kidney transplant recipient. And today we have an awesome show for you this evening. Three wonderful, selfless living donors are joining me today. How are you all doing today?
Doing well,
Good,
thank
thank
you.
you. Thanks for having us today.
Awesome. So we're going to get started with the questions. So my first question is for Shannon. First, let's do this. Let's take 2 or 3 minutes and just kind of introduce yourself. You don't have to go full detail story, anything like that. But we'll go ahead and start off with Shannon. Just tell a little bit about yourself. We can't hear you, Shannon. No, we see your mouth moving, but we can't hear you.
Wait, are you on mute?
No, I don't think she's on mute. Okay. All right. So we'll go ahead and start with Lisa. Lisa, just tell us a little bit about yourself. 3 minutes.
Okay. So I I work at Suffolk Community College. I'm an attorney, and I had first met Shannon and her husband because our sons went to school together. They were at Suffolk. I'm sorry, at St. Anthony's High School. So that's how we first met there. And so Shannon will go into the whole story with you. I'll let her start that when she comes back on. But um, that's how we met through the kids at the high school.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Robert, what about you, sir?
My name is Robert Modica. I'm a father of four children, married to my wife Jennifer. She's a school teacher in Kings Park School District. I work for Porky Products out of Carteret, New Jersey. And I know John, Shannon's husband, from years ago. We grew up on the same block, and we kind of reconnected. And when we reconnected, I heard the story about his daughter Julia and how wonderful Lisa was to be. This is before the surgery, Lisa to give Julia a kidney. And I was so inspired by the story. I decided to do the same thing for somebody.
That's awesome. Shannon, you back with us?
Can you hear me now?
We hear you.
Yep.
Hey, yes.
Okay, sorry about that. So I'm Shannon Mulroy. I'm from Long Island, New York, and I nicknamed myself the Momster. You'll probably hear a little later why. So my daughter had a kidney transplant, and I'm also a kidney donor myself.
Awesome. All right. Well, we can go ahead and get into these questions. You say that your daughter transplant and she's dealt with FSGS. How did your life and your husband's life change after your daughter was diagnosed with FSGS?
Well, everything has changed. Our world completely went upside down. And excuse me, when I look back 6 years ago when we were first blindsided by this, and I use the word blindsided because that's exactly what happened. She was an average high schooler that was 15, a freshman in high school playing lacrosse and soccer, hanging out with friends, to all of a sudden one day her eyes were swollen. She woke up and her eyes were real puffy, and I was giving her Benadryl thinking she had allergies. And literally 2 years later, she was in end stage kidney failure on dialysis. So our life completely changed in every aspect because now we went from having an average teenage girl starting high school to a girl that was chronically ill and changed her life forever and ours.
You said it kind of it snuck up on you, and that's the reason why they call it, the silent killer, because it's, you don't see signs or anything like that, unless you just run it smack dab into a wall, like your daughter did, or you just happen to catch it, by doing blood work and seeing a spike in protein, things of that nature. So that that story is probably very similar to a lot of other patients as well. um, I know it kind of was an issue with me at 4. Um, I remember my mom said, she came to pick me up from school one day, and she couldn't recognize me because I was so swollen. And at that time I was, young and early start school, and to me, I'm like, how you not recognize your own kid? Like, I had to be completely deformed or something for you to not to know it's me. Like, how do you not know what your kid looks like? That's why I was like, it had to be completely serious for it to be that bad. So my next question is for Robert. Um, so before hearing that story, um, did you ever have the thought about about being a kidney donor?
Well, I had a very close friend of the family, Jamil Lika. He donated a kidney to his sister way back in, I think, 2013, and it inspired me. And I said, if anyone in my family ever needed a kidney or a friend, I would be right up there to donate it. But after hearing Shannon and John's story with their daughter, and how they connected with Lisa, and what she did that was so wonderful, it kind of Julius, not kind of, but Julia's story inspired me so much that it wasn't long after that I went to the hospital to get blood work to be matched up with somebody.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, and really, the same question kind of goes for you, Lisa. Because I know your husband is a donor as well.
Yes.
Did you guys kind of always have that thought back of your mind? Hey, I want to be a kidney donor, even a liver donor, for that matter.
No, I really don't think it was something that we thought of before. I think we both looked at it in each situation as more of the opportunity presented itself. And, like as Shannon always says, share your spare. And, I knew Julia had been sick, and then, it was progressively getting worse. And then when, she told us that she needed a donor, I think it just struck me that I think any of us would hope that if our family member needed a kidney or a liver, that somebody would, if they were a match, would come forward, would help your family. And so it just felt like something right away that I wanted to do. And my husband donated about a year after me, and he donated to a stranger. Um, he said he was struck by what such a relief, to the family of someone suffering with kidney disease or FSGS, like Julia was. And I was always amazed by Shannon's strength, while, leading up to Julia needing the transplant, and the whole process. I mean, everything that, Shannon and John, they were right there side by side with Julia. Just the strength that they had, everything that they had to go through this along with Julia was always amazing to me.
Yeah, it is definitely an emotional situation, especially when you have that heart to want to give back. You may not know how, or the right
Mm-hmm.
way for you to do it personally. So Shannon, my next question is for you. What treatments and modalities did Julia have to go through before receiving her transplant?
Oh, goodness. Well, with FSGS, some people who are in that community understand, and other people who've never heard of it before. There really is no treatment for FSGS. The first thing they do is they put you on steroids, about 60 milligrams of steroids. And that on anybody is very difficult. But for a teenage girl in high school, I mean, she won't even look back at pictures of herself. She's just horrified about the way she looked at that time. Her face was real round with that big moon face. She put on about 25 plus pounds. She had stretch marks and still has them all over her legs that they look like she was mauled by a tiger. I mean, it's really quite sad to look at. I mean, she does a good job kind of covering it, but they're there for life. Those are, I tell her, they're her battle wounds, just to embrace it. But it's, the steroids cause such a difficult side effects that causes on your body, the mood changes, and going through being a teenager at that time, the mood changes as it is difficult. Now add 60 milligrams of prednisone. And I tell people all the time that unfortunately with FSGS, there really is no treatment. So I say, imagine if you had a computer or a cell phone that's 70 years old and you've never updated the software. That's what it's like here, because there is no FDA approved medication yet. I use the word yet because thankfully there are organizations out there we will get to later on in the show, but particularly NephCure Kidney International. They are working really hard to help the pharmaceutical companies and the clinical trials to find treatments for FSGS. So steroids was one. It did not work, so she became steroid resistant. Then she tried another type of medication called tacrolimus, and that became toxic to her, so she had to come off that. And then that was it. There was really no other option. They had offered different types of chemo medicines, and then ultimately, there was nothing left. There was absolutely nothing, no clinical trial, and she had to go straight to dialysis.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, steroids will definitely do that. That's one of the ones that, I tell people, if you look at the gain weight, that may be your way of doing it, because it will cause you to eat consistently. I was on steroids for a minute. I mean, a lot of us were on steroids. And your appetite just goes through the roof. It makes you want to consistently eat. It's like it gets to a point, and for some people who already eat a lot, I feel sorry for their parents, because they can keep nothing in the refrigerator at all. Um,
Combined with
so
being low sodium diet, because she had to be on that low sodium diet, and then ultimately a full blown renal diet, which was low protein, low phosphorus, low potassium, low
right,
sodium diet. And all of a sudden, when you're hungry, or we called it hangry, when you're hangry, she wanted to eat everything, including the walls. And
right,
nothing was ever enough, but it was
right.
difficult because you had to balance that with low sodium. So it was really, really challenging to manage all that.
Yeah, I still have that issue with, not overeating. But at this point in my in life, I've adjusted to being able to eat bland foods. So the level of like sodium and phosphorus, potassium, stuff like that isn't really an issue. It's just that I eat a lot. That's my only issue at this point, right? It's the intake of food that I put in, not necessarily what I put in my body. So I definitely understand it for sure. Um, so then my next question is for Robert. So were you knowledgeable about anything related to being a living organ donor even before you heard that story, that made you want to be a donor?
I was knowledgeable to an extent because, like I said, my friend donated to his sister, so I saw his recovery and his sister's recovery. So I was somewhat knowledgeable, but after talking to John that one day in my yard when we reconnected, and then meeting his wife Shannon, they kind of they gave me all the information I needed to know everything about that there was to know about donating the kidney and the recovery.
Awesome, awesome. So Lisa, comes back to you.
Mhm.
Um, I know you said that you know your recipient person. How is he doing? Is he right? I believe you said it was.
Oh, no, my recipient is Julia,
My daughter.
Oh,
Shannon's
okay.
daughter.
Wait a minute. Okay, I'm got information mixed up
Yeah.
in those bios. I apologize. Well, I will ask you, even though I probably gonna ask Shannon this question a little later. But how is Julia doing?
Well, she, still has some challenges, some health challenges with, like as Shannon said before, FSGS. It's not there's not a cure yet,
Mm-hmm.
but she's doing pretty well, since the transplant. She's in college. She's going to be a senior next year. She's at St. John's University. It's so nice to see her, being able to go out with friends, to go to classes, enjoy school. It's so nice that she's able to do a lot of things. But she handles everything with grace. She's, I think about most 15-year-olds. They can't imagine what Julia went through, um, all through high school, and so it's really wonderful to see her being able to enjoy college.
Awesome, awesome. All right, we're gonna take a quick second and take a commercial, and we'll come right back. Welcome back to a second chance. So we'll start back off with Shannon. So, with you being altruistic donor, have you had the opportunity to meet or at least hear from your recipient?
I actually did. It was interesting because I wrote a letter to the recipient and I asked my coordinator if she would send it to their coordinator. I knew going into the surgery that it was a woman that was 54 years old in a nearby hospital in New York City. That's all I really knew. And that's all they would tell me. And the coordinator, my coordinator said, don't get your hopes up because most likely they won't return a message or they usually won't have any communication. I said, that's fine. I just wanted to let them know that we were all praying for her and praying for her surgery and praying for her recovery, everything. So I sent this letter. And a matter of fact, it was interesting because it was probably 3 or 4 days later, and I was doing an event with Lisa doing an organ donation registration. And I happened to open my email and I saw from, her, and I saw this email and I was kind of trembling and I was like, oh, I don't want to read it now. And we were almost done with our event. So I just wanted to go home and open it with my husband and read it so I could just be prepared for whatever she was going to say to me. And it's something that really put everything into perspective. She said she wanted to call me, but she was crying her eyes out, so she didn't. She chose to write me back. And she had told me that she was giving up faith in mankind and lost all faith in humanity, and that I gave her life back. Those words to me were so powerful, knowing that I could change somebody's perspective on humanity. I mean, that was that was incredible to me to hear that, and I was so touched by that. We went back and forth with a few different emails, and she does want to meet, but it was also, during the pandemic. I donated in August of 2021, so we were still pretty, hectic within the pandemic. But she did tell me that she was taking a trip to the Dominican Republic, and she was just emphasizing about me giving her life back, and that's what it was all about.
Definitely, definitely. So this question actually goes out to all of you, including Shannon. So we can start at Shannon. Uh, but why? And I mean this because you have to have this in order to be able to feel someone's story and decide to make that action yourself. So why do each of you have the big heart that you have?
Well, you want to start with me? Okay,
Yep.
so I mean, mine is obviously very unique because at the time I had originally blood tested to be my daughter's donor. And when I'm telling you, I went into my bathroom, my shower, everywhere, and begged the Lord for it to be me. I'm her mother. And I felt there was, no other option. There was no fear. There was nothing. I needed to save my daughter's life, because it was one of those things. It's a big ask. I never asked for anything in my life, and then to turn around to ask anybody to save my daughter's life was very hard for me. I had no social media. I was a very private person, but I always look back and I said, well, I either choose social media or I choose a casket. It was that serious. And when I met Lisa Calla on the baseball field, I mean, I knew her a little prior because my daughter has a twin, and her his one of his best friends was Lisa's son, Guy Calla, and his older brother, Jack Calla. When she saw me that day on that baseball field, and I had come straight from dialysis, I was shot. I was exhausted. I was mentally tired, physically tired. And she took the time just to ask me if I was okay. I remember, I don't know if she remembers this exactly, but she was like, are you okay? You just seem so down, or something in regards to that. And I remember looking at her and being like, well, my daughter's really sick and she needs to have a transplant. She's going to die. That's the way I felt. And I handed her, I mean, I asked her if she would share my flyer with her friends and family. And 4 months and 1 day later, she saved her life. I mean, when they called me to tell me that she was a match, I was like, what? I had no idea she even filled out the form. And I remember talking to her, and it was a Saturday. I remember it so distinctly. And I said, well, as long as you're 100%, if you're 100%, she goes, oh, I am. And I'm going to call Monday and make my appointments to get going. And I was like, wow, it was amazing that she just did that. So, you know, my team felt that it was best that I didn't personally donate to her because of the unknown cause of her FSGS. They were a little nervous to use me, so they rather us use a non-related living donor. So at that point, although I was really, just down because I felt it was so important as her mother, I was relieved that anybody was willing to do this, for my daughter, who she never even met at that time, which was even more incredible. So after that went through, and my daughter got very sick after her transplant. She had recurrence of the FSGS, so we had to take some time to get her through all of that. But once she was out of the weeds, as I call it, I knew at that point that there was no doubt that I was going to go do the same for somebody else, that I had to go save somebody's life, and I had to get them off of dialysis because I knew firsthand what it was like. And I looked at my husband, John, and I said, I have to tell you something. I said, this is burning me. It's inside of me. I must do this. I have to. And he looked at me and he goes, me too. I was like, get out of here. I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, because we had never discussed it like that. And I was like, you're kidding. And he's like, no, me too. Let's do it. And there you go. So that was really what drew us in.
That's great. That's Robert.
Well, I come from a family of 7 siblings. As growing up, my mom made sure our door was always open for everybody. Anyone we knew that they were never alone on a holiday. They always had a place to stay, always had a place to eat. And I married into a wonderful family. My in-laws are very big givers, and my wife is 100% behind me in everything. And we're blessed with 4 wonderful kids. And, I look at those kids and I look at them growing up, and we're so blessed how healthy they are. And after hearing Shannon's story, especially Shannon John's story, you kind of put yourself in that position. Like, what is this mom going through, and how many moms have to go through this? And that's why when I got tested and I found out my kidney was going to a 14-year-old girl, it kind of like melted me, because my wife and I, we've done plenty of things. We've sent kids to the camp at the Y, and we've done plenty of things, on the down low. No, it's between us and our charities, but to do something like this to help somebody live a normal life as possible, there's no blessing than that. Like I said, I don't know my recipient. I know she was 14, and I know she's doing fantastic right now. And, after the surgery, I want to know, actually before the surgery, I want to know who she was so bad. But then after the surgery, when I found out she was okay, like that was enough, like to help somebody that was, I don't need to know her name. I don't need to know, what she's doing, but I just, as long as she's okay, that's enough for me.
Man, that says a whole lot about you, sir, and I definitely respect it. Lisa.
Well, like Shannon and Rob said, as a parent, you just, you think if it was your child, you would hope somebody would come forward and would help them and find a way. And, like Rob was talking about his family before, I feel like with my parents, when we were growing up, it was, always the mindset of, share whatever you can, share whatever you have. I don't know if my parents meant the kidney part. It was funny when they were, I guess you have to say, like, my mom was very nervous when I told her what I was doing. And I said, Mom, look, if it was, one of my kids or, one of your grandchildren, you'd want someone to put everything aside and just say, no, this is important. And, she understood. And, she was like so happy and proud afterward. But I guess in her case, she was saying, well, but you're my child. And, she was worried about me. And I have to say, people have asked me too, what would you say if your kids wanted to donate a kidney someday? And honestly, I hope they do. I'd probably be concerned for, the surgery to go well, but I would be, so happy if they eventually did someday. And it was, for me and my husband, for both of us, it was really, a, a great experience. It was, to be able to help someone like that. It's very rare that you get to do something like that. And, I just, my husband with donating to a stranger, he doesn't know who he donated to. He just knows it's, from what we know, young man in his early 30s. We don't know where he was from. I think it was in the New York area, but we don't really know much else. But he's glad to know that the kidney's working well for him, wherever he is.
Uh, I always tell people, when I tell my story, I know just off the knowledge, even before really kind of getting in the advocacy role and everything else like that, and really getting educated, about kidney disease and transplants and period, just in general. But I had my transplant at 17, and I was only on dialysis for 6 months. So when I hear people's stories, like, their kids had to deal with it for years, dialysis for years, or just being sick for, again, I was sick for 12 years before I went on dialysis. I was 30% kidney function from the age of 4 to the age of 16. Then it started to drastically decline. After my doctor was like, "It's time for you to go on dialysis, sir." It's like, oh man. But so when I went on dialysis in August of 2006 and got that call February 2007, just immediately, just to think, like, 6 months. And granted, I understand, because at that time pediatrics had priority. Um, so I kind of understand it, but then I don't understand it, because you start to wonder, why doesn't every other kid get a kidney or a transplant at the same amount of time? You start trying to figure out, like, what was special about me, and why was I the one who got in that amount of time? And I'm very similar to the three of you. I have a big heart as well, and I want everybody to get a transplant, no matter what transplant it is that they get, because everybody deserves to live a healthy, thriving life. Even if it is just for a second, they deserve that shot, that chance, that time, that moment. Whether it's by themselves, with family, with friends, whatever the case may be. Um, which is why I work so hard, at doing what I do, is to, again, put people in a better situation to thrive, even if they are dealing with kidney disease and they're on dialysis, right? What can you do to put yourself in a better situation to live a better life? Is it change your diet? Is it get physically active? Things of that nature. Like, what are the things that we can have control over to put us in a better situation to live a better life, even in the condition that we're in? So, definitely, man, my hat goes off to the three of you for sure. Because we need more people in the world like you. I mean, for you to just, hear somebody's story and say, "I'm going out to do this myself." I'm going to save someone's life as well. And the thing about it is that, and the reason why I say this is because you hear these stories sometimes where people say that they did it and was looking for something in return, right? And that's the one thing that, while we've been talking, I've noticed hasn't even started to even get close to come out of your mouth, was that you did it for a specific reason, other than you wanted to do it and save someone's life, which is something I can appreciate, again, like I said, recipient. So my next question goes to Robert. So, Robert, what was your support like while going through the testing process and having the surgery and going through recovery?
You mean my support from the hospital or my support on my
Support
personal life?
in general, hospital, friends, family, neighborhood,
Um,
job.
you know, I have to be honest with you. And listen, the hospital was great. They were doing their job. They were very nice. I was very excited to do it, but the overwhelming support that I got from my dear friends and my family and my company I work for, Porky Products. I mean, honestly, I have to give them a shout out. I mean, they were trying to get me to take off longer. I was ready to roll, ready to go back to work, and they're like, you know what? Stay home. We're gonna take care of you. Just, and my wife is just by my side at all times. She helped me with through everything, and I got to tell you, I'm so blessed in life, and that's what makes you want to do something like this. Being so blessed in life and family and friends, you want to just give. You have to. I mean, my only regret is I don't have 3 kidneys, so I could donate 2. That's my only regret.
All right. Let me ask you this question to elaborate a little bit more. I don't know how old your kids were, but were they old enough to understand what you were going
Of
through,
course.
and how did they play a role in your support? And the reason why I asked that question is because not too many people check on the kids in these situations, right?
Mhm.
Whether the parent is a donor or a recipient, nobody ever thinks what the kid is going through. Especially when the parent is a patient. They never think how they're feeling because mom or dad can't go outside and go play, or can't take them to the mall, can't do this. People don't understand that kids, just like parents, have to set their life aside as well because mom and dad can't do certain things, right? So
Right.
that
Right.
means that now the kid is limited to certain things that they can do, unless that parent or child just has that overall support system where somebody steps in and says, hey, I'll take them to go do X, Y, Z, or I'll take them to practice, or I'll take them to the mall, or I'll do this, or I'll do that. It has that step in person to step in and take over in those positions. So I, just want to know really, like, how did your kids play in that support system? What part did they play in that?
Well, at the time of transplant, my kids were 17. Actually, they were 16, 15, and 20. And when I told my wife and my kids what I was interested in doing, they really didn't seem surprised. Like you say, as a parent, you want to set example for your kids. You want to show them that this is what I want to do and this is why I want to do it. And being a good parent, like, which I got to give my wife a lot of credit as well. My kids weren't surprised. They were supporting me 100%. During my recovery, they supported me 100%. Anything I needed, they were there. But I can understand the situation with somebody that has younger children. Yes,
Mm.
because you are limited for a few weeks and someone else has to pick up the slack. But my kids are old enough where they were taking care of me as well as my wife, and our friends were so wonderful that I don't think we cooked for a month. We had food coming to the house for like a month. Like, and if anyone knows my wife, it was nice to have a hot meal for a whole month straight. Sorry, Jen.
I get it. I get it. Actually, Lisa, same question goes for you, Lisa. How was your support? Because I believe you said you donated before your husband, right?
Right. So when I donated my oldest son, it was right before his high school graduation, and my younger son, he had another year left of high school. So they were, I don't think they weren't that surprised, and they were happy. I mean, they were friends with Julia, very close friends with her brother. So they were very supportive. They were helping do stuff around the house after surgery. So, so like you were saying before, some people have really little ones and they need a lot of help with taking care of the kids. I mean, in my case, my kids helped take care of me. So, and my husband he was by my side every step of the way. Any appointment I had to go to in the city, um, all through after the surgery. Like I told Shannon, my husband slept on the chair next to my bed for a couple of days. When I was in the hospital after donation, I didn't have to worry about anything. So I was very, very lucky with support. And and like Robert said, a lot of friends and family dropping off food, and everybody was really such a huge help. So I had a great support system. So it makes me very sad, to hear sometimes some people, whether they're a donor or recipient, that they're not, not always getting as much support, or maybe their family doesn't agree. But I yet I've seen a lot of people, whether they had the support or not, they decided it was something they were going to do, and they went ahead and did it with with enough people to help them.
Yeah, no, I agree. Um, I hear that story a lot as well. People who didn't have uh, that much support. Like you said, whether they're donor or recipient. All I can say about recipients is that I'm glad they had the support long enough to get
Mhm.
placed on the list, because that's a big thing that they look at, is, do you have that support?
Mhm.
Because you gotta be able to, you got 2-3 appointments a week when you come out of after you get released. That goes for like 2 or 3 weeks. You know, so you gotta have somebody that can get you to the hospital, back home. Going shopping for you, things of that nature. Which is why when it comes to that, I tell people all the time, you know, ask a neighbor if you have to. Ask somebody in the neighborhood. Ask a friend. Get on. It's what social media is for. I'm sure it's
Mhm.
somebody with a big enough heart that lives around your area that would be willing, to go, to the store, grab you a few items,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
bring them
most
to
people
you.
probably, as long as they know, they'll be willing to help, And
Right.
even, and I was going to mention before, I mean, you know, Shannon, even after her donation, she does so much work with Nef Cure and Live on New York. It's every week, right?
It's a lot.
Probably
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah. Probably
you
yeah,
know,
it's more every
I
day.
think it's every day. She's working with a lot of groups to get the word out. It's so important to get the word out so that people realize that live donation, you know, it's something that a lot of us can do.
Yeah, it's. I work with a few foundations myself, so I definitely get it. That's my day is constantly working. Is, if it's not school, then I'm doing work for them. If it's not doing work for them, I'm in school. So it's like I'm doing something at some point throughout the day. Um, so my next question is for Shannon. Um, how did you get started with breast and kidney solutions?
Oh, great. That's a good one. So with that, I was actually on a patient advisory board with Kent, and I'm on four of them, actually no, three now, three advisory boards. One of them was with Kent. And when I say these advisory boards, they are phenomenal because one of them is called Cure GN, another one is the Neptune Advisory Board. And what they do is we talk to doctors and researchers, and we help them so they can get a better understanding from a patient or a parent perspective. And without research, you can't find a cure. Without research, you can't find better treatment options. So when I met Kent on an advisory board, I was like, this guy's amazing what he does every single day. So I called him up. I was like, I need to be part of this kidney solution stuff. What he does for his patients is invaluable. He has FSGS himself. He's a transplant recipient of 35, maybe 36 years now, which I was blown away by just to even hear that. And when I'm talking 24/7, this man's phone rings. It's incredible. So I said, I want in. And so he was like, "Oh, thank you so much. Let's go." And he put me right to work as his living donor advocate. And him and I just, it really seems to work well. I handle all the potential living donors when they call in. I help coach them through the whole process and just be there for them, knowing that somebody can walk them through step by step. And then also, I have the very unique perspective to know what it's like to be on the recipient side. So I do talk to several of the recipients all the time. And we do, these weekly support groups every Monday. And they're so wonderful. I feel like everybody who comes is like family to me because I understand what it's like. I sat there, next to my daughter on dialysis. I sat there for 6 weeks in the hospital with my daughter. It's so much that you as patients go through with kidney disease. It's not just for the time, it's a lifetime thing. It doesn't go away. There is no cure. So the transplant is just another treatment, but there's no cure. So for me, I understand what they're going through. So I also am able to give them, I call like little, like we hold little workshops and tips and tools on how to find different outside of the box ways of finding a donor. I know what I did personally to look for a donor, but now it's been expanded even further. So I like to offer my assistance on helping people find living donors, different unique ways, and just being there for them, being the support. So I love being with Kidney Solutions. That's been a big passion of mine, to work with Kent and the rest of the crew there.
Awesome, awesome. So Robert, I have a question for you. How did you
Sure.
come up with the karaoke idea?
Well, my wife and I were always entertaining at our home. We have a beautiful old home, and we're always entertaining there. So I spoke to Shannon about it, and then we decided to have a party at our house, and we're always having karaoke parties, so we decided to call it the Kidney Karaoke Party, and we wound up having a ton of people there. It was so great seeing the Lisa and her husband Guy and John and Shannon, and we had other people that were there that were kidney donors and a kidney recipient, and it was just a fantastic fundraiser we had, and we raised a lot of money just for like a house party, right, Shannon and Lisa?
Yeah, and it was a great time.
And, and it's a small world because Lisa was there, and Lisa met friends of ours that were mutual friends and kind of brought us together like a big happy family, and we hope to make it bigger and better next year. But like I said, we're always having get-togethers, and why not have a get-together for a cause? And so I think we knocked it out of the park, right, guys?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
it was
a great night.
You're right. Mm-hmm.
That sounds like a good time in my book for sure.
Oh, it was a
I
lot of
don't
fun.
really I don't do karaoke, but I will have just a good time just talking in general, especially when it has to do with kidneys and things of that nature. I don't mind sitting back and watching people have a good time. So that's awesome. That's awesome. My next question for you, Robert, is outside of the organization that you're raising money for doing the karaoke night, are you involved in any other organizations?
No, I'm not in any, charitable organizations. We do we can for local charities, but as part as being as being part of an organization, no, we're not. We're not part of a direct organization. Um, we do a lot of charitable work, a lot of charitable donations, but being part of an organization, no, we're not.
Not yet, because Rob has agreed.
Not yet.
Rob has agreed to do some organ donation registrations like Lisa and I do. So he's going to be a big part of that in 2023 here, and just continue his annual kidney karaoke party for Nepcure Kidney International. And just to, again, without, I always say you have to fund the cure. It's all about getting, better treatment options and finding a cure. And I appreciate that very much. So yeah, it's going to be a big year for the Modicas, in my opinion.
Yeah, Like, and I'm sure we have a good support group with that. And I think we raised like $5,000 at the party,
Just
right?
for a house party. It was incredible. And it was really
For a
pretty
house
fast.
party, yeah.
It was pretty fast. It wasn't like this was planned out over 8 months. He was just like, hey, I'm gonna do this party. And we're like, all right. And then it just went to
Yeah.
2, 3, 4 in the morning, whatever time it rolled out to.
Yeah, it was great.
Oh yeah,
We
those
we
those
we
all
uh we had a
nighters are
wonderful
great.
time.
Those all nighters are great. So Lisa, same question kind of goes to you. Outside of the organizations that the three of you are part of, are you involved in any other organization or foundations?
Well, besides Live on New York, my husband and I were involved. He's involved with Knights of Columbus. We're doing fundraising through that, and then I'm on the foundation board at Suffolk Community College. So we raise money for scholarships for students to come to the college. You know, whether it's academic or any kind of financial hardship. So we raise funds for that too.
That's awesome. That's I think that's something the school I'm leaving from needs to take on because I mean the area that I live in is not not great. It's a lot better now. Times gone by, but still, like everybody else, especially after COVID,
Yeah.
people are just in those financial situations where it's taking them a while to get out of it. So, I know this has got to be this year, that last year, and next year is going to be some hard times for people to send their kids to college. I'm just grateful I'm in a position to be able to send myself. So, um, so before we end here, actually, I do have one more question. This question is for Shannon, because you've all mentioned um, NephCure, Kidney International. Shannon, can you just take some time and explain what this organization is about, what it does?
Well, one of the things is that when Julia was first diagnosed with FSGS, it was it was what came up to me first is what I found out there, and I realized that they were the ones that had the support for FSGS, and they're the ones that were working with the the clinical trials and just the doctors trying to find better treatment options. And I latched onto that. And I know that they do the advocacy out on Capitol Hill and just peer to peer support or patient to parent support, all sorts of different support. And I really wanted to be part of that. So I embrace that. And now I'm the New York, New Jersey community lead for patient engagement and support with them because I enjoy talking to other parents and patients and help them navigate through this very rare disease. But I just like the fact that they were specifically for nephrotic syndrome. So, the National Kidney Foundation, the great organization that they are, they're involved in all kidney diseases. NephCure Kidney International is specifically for glomerular diseases. And that's something that I felt that I really wanted to be part of that tight community that advocates for better treatment options and a cure. So that's a little bit about NephCure and why I wanted to be a part of that. I'm attending a summit in San Diego next month, and it's great to be in a room with other patients and family members that they're going through or have gone through the same thing that you have or very similar stories because they're living with a kidney disease that has no cure, and particularly a glomerular disease that has no cure. So, if that makes sense.
Oh no, definitely.
Mhm.
So when you say next month, you mean April next month or May next month?
April. Yeah, it's April
Okay,
20th in San Diego. Yeah, your neck. Well, kind of your neck.
kind of. I will be in
West.
San Diego, but I'll be in San Diego the first week of May.
Right.
We have a theater production that we'll be doing at San Diego City College, so we're going out there, the first week of May. Um, So, man, all of your stories are empowering and inspirable. So I just definitely hope whoever watched took something from it. Um, I just want to give you all, a minute or two, give some words of wisdom to someone. Let's just say a parent that is just now finding out that their kid is diagnosed, with kidney disease, or finding out a friend's, kid, is diagnosed. What do you say to that parent to get them through this time? Uh, Whether it's, do what you need to do to be the donor, or do what you need to do to find the donor, however you got to put it. We'll start with Shannon.
Well, to me, when I speak to parents like that all the time, I mean, every single week, one of the things is I try to always encourage people to always give everything but up. I mean, realistically, it's so hard to navigate this, and it's so challenging mentally, physically, on every family member, not just, your spouse, but the other children. Like, my daughter has a twin. It was very hard, and at times I felt so bad for him because everything was about her and her life. So I encourage other family members to really try to stay focused on the other siblings in the family, and try to find that balance. Really just always give everything but up. Don't ever give up. There's always some sort of hope, and other people to connect with. Get support, go to these support groups, get the support that's needed. I think, I try to tell people often that the mental is equally as important as the physical part of this disease. So don't overlook the mental side of things. It's very easy to overlook that and become very overwhelmed with the situation. But just to get support, write everything down, get yourself a very good journal, a leather bound journal this way, because you're going to have that with you at all times. Write everything down. You're going to forget. There's so much that goes into this. And try not to use Google as your doctor. Have a good support staff, good team. You have doctors for a reason. They have your child's life in their hands, is the way I look at it. So make sure you have a great team, somebody that you're 100% with, that you feel 100% confident with that team. So that's really the advice I give. And just before we close off to go to the next one, my husband and John and I, both when we donated our kidneys, we received future advance vouchers for Julia. So we have two advanced future vouchers. People don't realize that you can get this voucher. We got it through the National Kidney Registry, and it's we call it the golden ticket, because that golden ticket will be turned, Willy Wonka's golden ticket, that golden ticket will be turned in for her one time. She's 20 years old, so she will need another transplant or two or three in her future. So she will turn that voucher in, and then she will be prioritized on the list. God willing, she'll never, hopefully, God willing, spend another day on dialysis ever again. That's our plan. So we do have two of those future advance vouchers. So I encourage parents to look into that option through the National Kidney Registry. Thank you. We'll shoot it up to
Robert?
whoever's next.
Well, I only know the struggles of being a recipient from what I've heard from a close friend of mine and from Shannon, but I do know, to somebody that needs a kidney out there, that do not give up hope. There's people out there like us that are willing to help. And there's people like Shannon that, if you think outside the box and think outside your doctor and outside your hospital, there are support groups and people that dedicate their lives to helping people in their situation, and go to those support groups, make those phone calls. I mean, I was down by and Shannon knows the story. I was down by the pizzeria by my house, and someone overheard that I donated a kidney, and somebody was there that was on dialysis and came up to me and says, "I heard you just donated a kidney. I'm waiting for a kidney." And Shannon's kind of humble, but I gave this person Shannon's number, and she helped him so much. So there's people out there that care.
Mhm.
And when this young man got a kidney, he FaceTimed Shannon and I from the hospital and told us thank you so much, and the work that she's doing out there, and the inspiration her daughter's story gave to all of us, and what Lisa did, and there's just so many good people out there that don't give up hope, because there are people out there that care.
Wow. Wow. Lisa?
Yeah, so very true what Rob and Shannon said. I would recommend to people the groups that Shannon works with, the NEF-Cure, the Kidney Solutions, the support groups. Like, the support is out there. And, I try to explain to people too that, like Shannon said, that donating on someone's behalf and being able to, if you're donating to a stranger and that person may have a family or a friend who wants to donate, but they just don't match them, but they could match the next person down the line. So there are good people out there willing to help. And, I think the support groups that Shannon's involved in they're amazing, because they keep people going until they can find that person that can really help them. So the help is out there.
Well, thank you to the three of you for joining me this evening. Uh, Definitely inspired by all of your stories. I hope everybody that watched here is as well, and somebody took something from what you all said here today. Um, just to let you all know, Shannon will be opening our FSGS conference on Thursday. That starts at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 o'clock Eastern time. It'll be right here on our YouTube channel. It'll be hosted by Fred Hill and Safaro Cook, who are both kidney transplant recipients. Safaro is a two-time kidney transplant recipient. I will not be able to be on this one because I'll be having surgery that same day. This will be one that they got to do without me. So, and I'm not worried at all, because both of these gentlemen are hardworking, dedicated advocates in the kidney community. They both have their own business within the kidney community. Tafaro owns Kidney Care Coaches, where he helps people with stage 3 to stage 5 and on dialysis patients. Fred Hill helps dialysis patients on the therapy side of things, mental and things of that nature. So both of them are very invested, advocates / kidney transplant recipients. So definitely tune in for that. That's going to be a very exciting event, and we've added something that we don't think we've ever had on one of our conferences, which would be a patient panel, which is something I'm looking forward to watching when I wake up. Um, but I appreciate Shannon agreeing to open us for this conference. And thank you again, the three of you, for joining this evening. If you can stay on for a quick second after we get done, I just want to talk to you for a quick second. Yeah, we'll be back. I said Thursday, and then next Wednesday, we'll be back on for the start of Donate Life Month. One of my favorite months of the year. I don't know about you all, but I love it. It's donation time all the way around. So um, definitely, if you have a foundation that you support them for Donate Life Month. If you don't have one, find one. If you need help finding one, I'm sure one out of the four people on the screen can help you find one to help support. So definitely reach out if that's needed. If you're that person that likes to support organizations doing great work. Again, thank you all for joining us. Whether you're watching this live or watching this later, at a later date, tune back in on Thursday and next Wednesday, and we'll see you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Philip.
Thank you so much.